Okay. Good evening, everyone. Am I visible and audible to all of you? Okay. So, as you know, we'll be starting our 500 plus program from today, and some announcements I will make up first. In the last, again, I'll repeat these announcements, and first few minutes, 15-20 minutes, first we'll discuss generally about paper 1, and then we'll start with the population geography, which is the topic for today. Okay, so some announcements which I have to make regarding the course. So, as you know, because many students were confused about this, so first announcement that you know that we have divided. There are 3 courses. One is what we are calling it as before prelims. Second is after prelims. And the third one, if you talk about, is the full 500 course. So, because this will be this full course is divided into 2 parts, before and after. Okay, so you know there is different fees for this, different for this, and the combined fees for this one. Now, some of you were confused with respect to the time duration up till which these videos would be available. So, let me very clearly clarify that if you are only joining before prelims, then it is 16,800 fees is there, and the duration is, the videos will be available till the course duration. So, I think it is I think somewhere mid-March. So, in this case the videos will be available only up till mid-March, because your course will be over then and the videos will also be removed for you. After prelims, the fees is I think 10,500, and here if you talk about it would be during the course duration. That means videos will be available till mains, and because it is only starting after prelims, that means around 2.5 months, whatever. However, if you are joining the full course, in this full course the fees, as you know, it is 24,800. That means here you are saving around 2,500 rupees. That is one thing. Second thing, so this is one advantage you are getting. Second advantage is because you are getting both of these, part 1 and part 2. So, we are also calling it as part 1, and this is also referred to as part 2. You are getting both part 1 and part 2 starting from today till the last, that is till the mains, it will be available for you, both these. Okay. So, in this case, another advantage is part 1 and part 2 would be available till mains on the portal. Okay. With respect to this, anybody should not have any confusion. That is why those of you who have only taken in before prelims, we are calling you and advising you that it is better that, because you have to pay the rest, something 8,000 amount, and you will get more benefits if you are joining the full course. और full course तो join करोगे ही तुम लोग, ये भी जान लो. Most of you are going to join. Either you join it like before prelims and after prelims, उसमें you are losing 2,500 rupees and the other advantages. And believe me, once I start with the class, there is no doubt you are going to join. ठीक है. So it is better कि वो conversion अभी कर लो rather than losing all the benefits. And बाद में कितना भी रोएगा कोई कि ये हो गया वो हो गया, I will not extend the time duration of the availability of videos. इस चीज को याद रखना. ठीक है. Okay, so that was first announcement which was there. Second announcement is with respect to this no, it doesn't work here. Raja is asking same question. If we join, फिर से बता देता हूँ. If you are joining before prelims and later you are joining after prelims, then these benefits you will not get. The videos will be available only for the separate courses, because you will be in different groups of these courses. ठीक है. Okay. Second, one minute, give me. Second thing, on 21st of January, I will be taking a orientation class for a course which I am going to start. I am calling this course as Geonomics for Prelims. And in this Geonomics for Prelims, I am going to cover 3 parts, which is geography, environment and ecology, and third part which is economics. All these classes I will be taking up for all these 3, and this will be for the prelims. Okay, so this is going to be, the orientation class would be held same time 4 p.m. on 21st of January. ठीक है. And it will be a very qualitative class, and you know that combinedly all these 3 topics almost account for 50 questions in your prelims. So almost half of the questions are coming from these 3 topics, and we'll cover them very comprehensively along with lots of practice for prelims. So again, I'll deliberate it more in the orientation class. ठीक है. So that is my second announcement. Everything will be discussed because we don't have time here. So everything I'll be discussing on the same day, 21st January, 4 p.m. Okay. So that is second. Third thing, some of you might have seen previously what I used to do. I used to give lots of practice questions. So I'll just show you how it used to be. Like you see, there used to be this session questions and this practice questions. But now what I have done, I have taken some practice questions and just included them within the session questions. So we'll be discussing them along with the session questions, and I have removed this part as the practice questions. And every day what I will be doing is I'll be giving you some homework, and this homework will not necessarily be always writing answers. It can be some qualitative work as well, some other type of activities. Like for example, today is the first day and I have given you as homework two things, two aspects. One, you'll see that we'll be talking about many population theories, and I have given you material for this. For example, you see here, you see I have given population theories. So number of population theories material I have given, for example, Malthus Doubleday diets theory, Juan de Castro protein consumption theory, Sadler's destiny theory, and Spencer's biological theory. Similarly, I have given some socio-economic theories like Dumont's theory of social capillarity, Karl Marx theory of surplus population, several. Okay, so one task which I am giving you today is, which I'll be explaining later on also, that you have to write summary of each population theory given in the feedbook in 150 words. So you have to summarize all of them, because see, when we are writing the answers, the biggest problem that I find students are facing is they are unable to summarize the known content in few words. As a result, one very important problem that arises, you write more than what is required. Second problem which arises because of that, many times you miss out on the paper. You leave many questions because you have taken extra time in writing that. Okay, so very important thing that we have to learn with respect to UPSC is to how to express ourselves, express all the things we know in just few words. Okay, and for this work I am giving you, we'll make one Telegram group like previously also we have been doing so. So there will be a Telegram group for you, and you will be required to upload what you have written, the PDF form in that Telegram group, just to make your accountability. उसको मैं चेक नहीं करने वाला हूं. The Telegram group, not all theories, each of the theory in 150 words. So Malthus theory in 150 words, Doubleday theory 150 word, Spencer's theory 150 word, Castro theory 150 word, like that. Have you understood what I am saying? Yes or no? Okay, so you will be uploading this in the Telegram group, and again I am saying that I will not be checking, but it is a kind of thing which will make you accountable, and also because you will be uploading, others will also be seeing your work. So again there will be a kind of competition, because you will be also able to see others, and if others are writing better than you, then what will happen, a kind of competition will be there, a feeling of competitiveness will be there, and you will again try to rewrite and work harder towards achieving the targets. Okay, so that is one thing. This is one work which I am giving you. Second is, I have given you a long, almost 40 pages, some demographic data of world and different regions. For example, you see least developed countries, other less developed countries, less developed regions excluding China, high income countries, middle income countries, like that. Lots of data I have given, and last in the class I'll explain you for each of these headings how you will be summarizing, how you will be essentially summarizing it. Okay, and this is what we require to answer the population geography questions. Many times we write something but we don't have the necessary examples to support our answers. Okay, what assertion we have made, we don't have necessary proof, evidences, examples to support what we are saying. Okay, so in last part of the class, I will be explaining you how we will be summarizing these, what are the important things here which I will be taking up, and what will be the manner. For example, whether I'll make a graph, how I will try to remember these numbers. Okay, so like this, in every session I'll be giving you some homework to be done, and I find this more you can say better, because the earlier method which I was using was I was giving lots of questions and students were so much confused because many of the questions were repeated also, in just different words they were repeated. So it creates sometimes a kind of overwork, lots of pressure that I haven't done these practice questions, I have to do them also. In the process, you are unable to consolidate upon the session questions. Okay, so I am now, from now, I am eliminating these practice questions. I will be giving you some practice questions, but not like this, every day, like some kind of homework, which is to be done. Okay, I think the material has already been uploaded in the app. Okay. So this is, I told you on the first day itself that I'll be making some changes. So this is one change which essentially I am going to make from this time. Okay. So that is how we'll be moving on. And now, as I said, I'll just discuss the syllabus of human geography. Again, if you want to change the course to full course, just call the office and they'll tell you the procedure. ठीक है. ओके, जिनको भी ऐप में थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है, जस्ट दिस इज फर्स्ट क्लास and originally they had planned that the class should be done on YouTube only, but I told them that it is better that those who have taken admission, they should be watching in the app, and others who have not taken admission, just want to see as a demo class, can watch in the YouTube. Okay, so whatever, some of you might be facing some app related problem, or class ke baad you just call them and they'll solve the problem. So don't worry, it is there in the app, maybe you are not able to find. Okay. So coming to paper 1. Now very clearly in paper 1, as it is written, it is the principles of geography. And you know what is the concept or what is the aspect related with principles. Paper 1 is it is a subject which is highly theoretical. It is highly theoretical, and when it comes to the theory part or the theoretical aspects, when something is theoretical, what happens? It is more like I would say like a science. And what is very important aspect of science? There are two aspects. One is either you know it or you don't know. Obviously, when you know, you will get the marks, you will be able to write it and you will be getting the marks. If you don't know, So you'll get the marks. If you don't know, essentially it means that you will not get the marks no matter how much fatte, how many stories etc. you basically write there. It doesn't matters. It all used to happen during our class days, during our university days, that usme we ultimately used to get numbers according to the number of pages we would have filled. Here it is not at all like that. UPSC is giving you fixed space to write, and it expects from you that you are writing the necessary, the relevant content. No matter whatever unnecessary content you write, it will not make any much positive difference to your marks. It might make some negative difference in the sense that examiner might feel like that you are someone who is bluffing, and he might make an impression about you, and accordingly that might affect the rest of the questions that he would be checking. So that is what I am saying here. It is all about what? Knowing and memorizing. So if you ask me, paper 1 is all about memorization. The more you memorize, the better marks you will be essentially getting. Okay? The better marks you will have. So it is all about memorization, and here that means very, very important aspect is what? It is the content. I have given this example many times. Again, let me just give you an example and you will understand this. And this is very common example. One question, if you look into the previous year papers, you will be finding that one question has been very frequently asked. Or let me give you a question example from human geography. It would be better because here we are going to start with human geography. So I think it was 2019. Yes, it was 19 when one question was asked in the mains, and this question was that overpopulation, something like that. It was overpopulation is a threat, something like this, to sustainable development. And it was comment. Okay. Now tell me, I'll give you 2 minutes. Think what you will be writing. You have got your 2 minutes. It was, I think, a short note, or maybe 15 marker. It was, yes, it was a 15 marker. Just brainstorm on what you will be writing here. Think what you will be writing. And again, I am saying framework you have to make of your answer. You don't have to write the full answer. So you got 2 minutes. Okay. Now, what will happen and what should have happened? Most of the students, when they will be writing answers, what they will do, they will ultimately try to explain how overpopulation threatens sustainable development. ठीक है, this will be the core theme. They will be writing their 80-90% of the answer on this. They will take lots of examples, and many type of examples can be taken to ultimately prove like how sustainable development. If I am just suppose writing this, what I will do, I will take the parameters of sustainable development, various parameters of or aspects of sustainable development, whether it is equity or intergenerational equity or participation, etc., etc. So many elements can be taken, and ultimately I will try to link it with proof that how overpopulation is threatening in achievement of each of these. ठीक है, how many of you thought about writing like this? Tell me. So I know many of you would have thought with respect to writing this core theme. Okay, there is no problem in this. The only problem is that here the keyword was comment. And comment का मतलब क्या होता है? Comment means that you can go beyond even what has been asked. You can agree with the statement, you can even disagree with the statement, you can partially agree with the statement. So here I will partially agree with the statement, but I also know, अभी हम देखेंगे, because first we will be talking about, first day we are going to talk about these concepts of over, under and optimum population. So we will see that when we are talking about the relationship between population and resources which is leading to development, we have to understand very clearly that there are other factors which also affect. So here population means population size. One factor is the factor of technology, and the other factor is the factor of affluence. We call it as PAT. So when we have to understand the relationship of population and resources, it is not so much simple. It is intervened by the factors of technology and affluence. Okay. So tell me now, when I have this content, when I know this theoretical framework, can I say that my answer would totally change now? Yes or no? It is saying overpopulation is threat to sustainable development. And here I'll interpret overpopulation as high population size. So can I say, okay, 50% of my answer I'll write on the relationship between how population size is leading to problems. But can I say 25% I should also write? I would say that although population size is important variable, but we have to understand that it is not in itself alone. There are other factors also which are important. For example, we see if you talk about developed countries, the total population of the developed countries is much lesser than what is the population found in the developing countries. But the total amount of degradation that they cause, the amount of, if you talk about the ecological footprint that they have, it is much higher per capita if you take into account than the developing world. Okay, so very clearly I will take into account the factor of technology, I'll write. Also 25% will be on the factor of affluence. Okay. Now can you understand that normally if I don't know, because abhi main janta hu bahut achhi tarah se that many of you sitting here wouldn't be aware of this concept of relationship between population and resources. Many of you were not very clearly aware of this, and thus you wouldn't have thought about writing it. Now normally what will happen, when you will go in the examination, you will write about that, and ultimately you will get you'll come out of the examination hall feeling satisfied कि I have filled the full page and ultimately I have written this example, that example. But when the marks will come, you will be highly surprised. And why surprised? Because you will get less marks. Why you got less marks? Simple as that, because you answered only one half of the question. Second half of the question you didn't answer. Okay? And this is what I am saying is the core of paper 1. I'll give you one more example. The physical geography example I was talking about. So you'll find that this question has been many times asked in the exam, and the question is, structure is the dominant control factor in landform evolution. Discuss. Many times this question has been asked. Now, when students get this question, because they haven't studied, actually it is one of the concepts which was of geomorphology which was given by Thornbury. So they haven't studied, they don't know basically what is the meaning of this term structure in geomorphology, what we mean by the term structure in geomorphology. So they are not prepared. But what will happen? सबने structure कुछ ना कुछ पढ़ा होता है. They know little bit about structure, so they will go and write something on structure. Many times I have given in the test, and most of the time students they bring pen into the discussion, and they'll write how ultimately few things about structure, and they feel very comfortable, they feel very satisfied. But when they get marks, ultimately they are much more satisfied. If you talk about surprised, so much surprised, because here this answer has a fixed content. You in this answer, what you will do, you will start with explaining what is the meaning of the term structure in geomorphology. So structure in geomorphology has two meanings. One, in narrow sense, it only refers to the arrangement of rocks, but in broader sense it refers to three aspects. One is lithology, second is arrangement, and third, if you talk about, is characteristics. So there are three aspects or three meaning of the term structure broadly. So first in the introduction you'll explain what is structure, and then in the main body you'll say that each of these affect or control landform development. Each of these variables or each of these aspects of structure have their impact on landform development. And in the main body, that means the main body will have at least three parts where you will talk about, you'll explain what is lithology and how does it controls landform development, what is arrangement and how does it affects landform development, what are the aspects included under characteristics and how they affect landform development. And finally, in the last part, you will also say, because the question is about discussion, it is discuss. Okay. So, discuss में we also have to talk about if there are shortcomings. So, in this statement, the statement is no doubt correct, but you must have read in geomorphology a very famous statement by Davis that landforms are function of structure, process and time. And if you look into this statement is just talking about structure to the exclusion of two other important factor, time. So, can I say I will write one more paragraph on the factor of time and process also affect landform development. So, that means your main body will have these four parts and then you can ultimately write a conclusion. Now, tell me, many people came to me with complaints that we wrote so many things, we wrote this, but they are doing injustice in geography and this and that, and ultimately they are targeting geography. ये भी एक नया narrative है. And again, because of that, we are not getting marks. Can I say it was not the mistake of UPSC or the examiner? Can I say that it was mistake of the student, that he was not very clear about his content, what was to be written there? Tell me yes or no. So, if you are not writing, because this is very something like a fixed science की तरह है, जैसे पूछा गया what is Newton's law. So, same thing is like here, what is structure and how it controls landform development. The content is fixed, you cannot alter. I cannot at least alter, I am not a geologist. And ultimately what will happen? You will get less marks. So, this is what is the crux of paper 1. If paper 1, some of you might have given the exam before and many of you would have got less marks. So, if you are getting lesser marks in paper 1, it essentially means that your content was not up to the level. If your content was up to the level, there is no doubt that you will be getting good marks if you have completed the paper. No doubt it requires some writing practice, it requires some good presentation, etc. But content is the core. More than 80% weightage in paper 1 is of the content. All other things they have less weightage. Comparatively, paper 2 mein, the weightage of the content is lesser compared to other things, presentation, diagrams, examples, case studies. Okay? So, you have to very clearly understand this is the approach you will be taking in paper 1. And most of you who have joined, most of you will be facing this problem that what you have studied is not what is required for the examination. It is insufficient. It is insufficient with respect to what is required in the examination. Paper 2 is a different ball game altogether. Paper 2 I will be discussing when we will start with respect to paper 2, because see, here we are starting with a session and we have to complete some questions also, so I don't have lots of time here. The biggest challenge in 500 plus will be that we'll be running against time. Okay, so I hope that I am able to clear out what I was trying to say with respect to paper 1. So if you are getting less marks in paper 1, very clearly your content was weak. And here we have to work upon improving the content. This means that in this 500 plus course, you will have to learn a lot. You'll be coming across many new theories, many new concepts, much of very new content which you wouldn't have studied. And for this, what is required is a very fresh approach, a very open mind, because many of you have done your optional classes from somewhere else. So many places you will be finding that there will be lots of contradictions might also come to you. There will be lots of resistance in learning. But you'll have to shed this resistance and keep on learning. एक दो चीजें और बता देता हूं. One of the biggest mistakes that students would do is they would go for the ideal approach. And ideal approach में होता क्या है? They will think about जो अपने क्लास नोट्स हैं वो भी पढ़ लिए जाएं, whatever they would have studied, 500 plus notes which will be making in the class and what I'll be giving you, and they will also think about reading some books. Now tell me practically, क्या ये possible है? Is it possible? I would say that it is impossible in the given time. In the given time. ठीक है? So my suggestion is very clear with respect to this, and this will be our law throughout. One topic, one source. This is going to be our motto throughout this course. One topic, one source. ठीक है? And believe me, एक source आपको दे दिया गया, one source you have been given to read, and this source more or less contains your variety of, because you'll see 500 may I'll cover almost all dimensions which you are required to know. After this also, if you feel that you are lacking the content, this is actually a disease. And if I go into the reasons of this disease, I'll come to know that they are twofold. One, you did not revise. Second, you did not practice. And that is why you feel that you do not have the content. ठीक है? अभी जैसे हमने देखा, we talked about this PAT. Tell me, can I say this concept I can use at so many places? So many questions are being asked on this relationship of population and resource. Can I say that most of those questions can be answered on this simple 3 variables: population, affluence, and technology? So you don't need to have a separate content for every question. What we need is a limited set of material which we can memorize, and use that limited set of material to even answer those questions which we wouldn't have studied directly. And this is the key to success. That is why this year I am eliminating those session questions, because total मिला के वो 1000 questions से ज़्यादा हो जाते थे, and it was too much of burden for the students. So सारे overlapping वाले हटा दिया मैंने. ठीक है? So that is what you basically have to understand, that if you still feel that you don't have the content, there is some problem with you, not with the content. Okay. So with this we'll be starting our discussion. As you know, human geography, first we are taking up perspectives in human geography, economic geography, population settlement geography, regional planning, models, theories and laws in human geography. These are the 5 topics which are mentioned in human geography. Now, human geography is very important. It is needless to say that human geography is very important, because it is actually very important. If you look into the syllabus, you will be finding that paper 2, except this physical setting, if you leave this topic of physical setting, rest 9 topics are human geography topics. Rest total 9 topics are human geography topics. So human geography, and what we will be studying here, we will be utilizing that in paper 2. Lots of linkages in answering the questions of paper 2, understanding the topics of paper 2. Okay. And when I used to write the exam, it worked for me. I used to get very good marks in paper 2. So many students, I have been teaching for a long period of time, and so many students have adopted my strategy and they have got very good marks in paper 2. So human geography, which is here, it is not only useful for paper 1. Its direct relevance is not limited to paper 1. Its relevance is huge in paper 2 as well. Okay, that is why this should be taken very seriously. And second thing, because in your optional classes, this was the topic which was hardly touched by the teachers. They just teach 2 topics mostly where they are comfortable. One is models and theories, most of the teachers are comfortable, and the other one is population and settlement geography, where most of the teachers are comfortable. So these are the 2 topics which they deal. All other topics they just ultimately are leaving. Here, however, we will not be doing so. We will be covering it in a more exhaustive manner. So we will be starting here with population geography. If you look into the syllabus of population and settlement geography, you can see that it is mentioned as one topic. And this is the reason when you will be finding long questions, it is almost alternatively, either they are one year asking from population geography, other year they are asking from settlement geography. Although since the new pattern of the paper, where they have now they are not asking long 60 markers, now they are asking 20 markers, 15 markers. So now they have more choice. So many times they are asking both in the same year, population and settlement geography. Okay, but if they are both are coming, either one short note and one long, तो दोनों होते जरूर हैं पेपर में. They are always there in the paper. And here till this topic is our population geography, and this is first topic I am taking up. I am taking up this topic. I should have ideally started, because in my optional classes I ideally start with my perspectives in human geography. So ideally I should have started with perspectives in human geography, but here I am not going to do so, because पहला ही क्लास बहुत भारी हो जाएगा. Okay, so it will become too much condensed classes, very difficult classes, first class. And perspective, you know, the nature of perspective is it is little bit boring. So many of you might not be very comfortable with that. So first let us get comfortable with each other, and that is why I am taking a little bit light topic, which is population geography, and with that we are starting. But here you can understand that will be in this schedule, if you see, each of these topics, even economic geography will be taking. So for this I have told before also in the orientation class, again I am telling you, if you don't have basic reading material for this, there is one book which can serve as your basic reading material, and this is the Models in Geography by Majid Hussain. This book is quite good book and mentions much of the topics which we require So you can use this book as your basic material. ठीक है, इसमें किसी को कोई डाउट? Okay. For those who have Khuller, यार honestly speaking, Khuller I haven't seen for human geography book. ठीक है, I haven't seen the Khuller on human geography, so I don't know what exactly how good the book is. But this book is actually very good. So my suggestion is, यार आर.डी. दीक्षित और वो सब जब पर्सपेक्टिव आएगा तो मैं बात करूंगा कि आर.डी. दीक्षित पढ़ना है नहीं पढ़ना है. आई विल टेल यू. नो, यू डोंट हैव टू मेक नोट्स आउट ऑफ द बुक. ठीक है, यू डोंट हैव टू मेक नोट्स आउट ऑफ द बुक, यू जस्ट रीड द बुक. ठीक है, अगेन आई एम सेइंग नोट्स जिसके पास, दिस इज सजेशन बीइंग गिवन फॉर दोज हु डोंट हैव नोट्स, हु डोंट have their own notes. Kumar Aniket is asking, what about guidance notes? If you have studied guidance notes, you know already they are very, very good and they are better than books. ठीक है, they are better than books. So if you have read them, fine, there is no problem. They are very good. They are one of the case, ideal case हो जाएगा वो. But the thing is, मैं जो कहना चाहता हूँ बस उसको समझने की कोशिश करो. That guidance notes are very exhaustive. Practically speaking, I don't think that you will be able to complete both the guidance optional class notes plus 500 together. दोनों साथ में तो नहीं कर पाओगे. So my suggestion, simple suggestion is focus upon the 500 plus, because 500 plus will cover most of the things which are there in the guidance notes. ठीक है, it will cover most of the things which are there in the guidance notes. And once we are done with this, once we have consolidated properly, after that जो भी मुझे एक्स्ट्रा पढ़ना होगा वो मैं पढ़ सकता हूँ. You can keep the guidance notes as reference material. They are very good reference material. कई बार होता है कि हमें we are unable to understand many concepts in the class. So I can just look back in the guidance notes and there whatever I'll be speaking, they are more in dictated form, all the things are written there, so you will better understand. ठीक है. So this is how you should be using. If you are using the guidance notes, you use them as simply as reference material. Motto याद रहना चाहिए, one topic, one source. And why I am saying this models in geography book or notes, because see, like I'll just explain you why I am saying this. इसमें अच्छा नहीं दिया हुआ है. Like for example, one question I will be taking up in Malthus directly will be the contemporary relevance of Malthusian ideas. Now here when I am taking the contemporary relevance of Malthusian ideas, I am not going to explain you what was Malthusian theory in the class. I will focus upon what is the contemporary relevance of his theory. That means you should already know what was the Malthus theory. ठीक है. So वो basic I am expecting that you know. In many places I will even explain the basic things. Like when it comes to central place theory, I know कि hardly किसी की औकात नहीं होती कि उसको समझा पाए. And because of that, most of the students are not very clear about the concepts of central place theory. So that is something which I will be dealing from scratch. So I know which things you know, which things you do not know, which things you have been taught and which have not been taught. So accordingly I have designed the 500 plus. ठीक है. देखो एक और आ गई यहाँ पर. दामिनी इज आस्किंग कैन आई कंबाइन दिस बुक and my optional note together for the topic. Again the same thing you are asking again and again. Don't do this combination. वो जोड़ घटाओ वो सब नहीं करना है. One topic one source. जिसमें ज़्यादा better दिया हुआ है बस उसी को पढ़ो. ठीक है. Wherever it is given more exhaustively, much better. You have to, if you have suppose two source for same topic, don't think कि मैं इसमें से भी अच्छा वाला निकाल लूंगा, इसमें से भी अच्छा वाला निकाल लूंगा. What will happen? You will end up wasting time. You will not be able to consolidate. So you choose which one is better and just study that. Notes aren't that exhaustive of guidance. Handwritten notes I am mainly talking about. The class notes जो हम देते हैं, they are very exhaustive. I don't know what you are talking about. ह्यूमन ज्योग्राफी बुक नहीं, मॉडल्स इन ज्योग्राफी बुक. ठीक है. अब इतना मैंने बोल दिया, क्लियर हो जाना चाहिए. अब जिसको नहीं क्लियर हुआ, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू मच डेलिब्रेट अपॉन दैट. ओके. So this is how we'll be moving on, and now I'll be starting with the questions which we have to discuss. So we are going to start with population geography. And in population geography, you know, there are number of perspectives that we have to take into account. One is essentially the theories which are there, that we have to take into account, which are directly mentioned theories. Like for example, you know, Malthus, Marx, and others like demographic transition. These are theories which are directly mentioned in our syllabus. ठीक है. But there are some theories which are not mentioned in the syllabus. वो भी हम करेंगे. Like there is demographic transition theory mentioned, but they haven't mentioned about the epidemiological transition theory, which is a very crucial theory to understand many other concepts that we'll be studying. The framework to understand fertility, it is not directly given, but we'll have to study them. We'll have to understand them. Okay, so one aspect of population geography is these theories. But second very big aspect of population geography, if you talk about, is the demographic attributes. The demographic attributes. And in paper 1, there is no elaboration of this demographic attribute. Like you see here, growth and distribution of world population, this is one elaboration is given. Then demographic attribute सीधा दे दिया. No other thing is mentioned. Although, so what should be studied under demographic attributes? This problem is solved if I just go back and look into paper 2. So here it is, they have little bit elaborated. Can you see demographic attributes? Sex ratio, age structure, literacy rate, workforce, dependency ratio, longevity. ठीक है. So all these are the demographic attributes which I have to prepare also for paper 1. ठीक है. Questions can be asked from that. So that is one, demographic attributes. One aspect of the topic is the topic of migration. It is part of demography, but I am taking it as separately. So migration is another aspect that we have to study. And here also, you know, there are some theories and application of theories. Here, these theories we will apply to understand the demographic attributes. And last but not the least is the population problems and policies. Population problems and policies. And in this population problems and policies, so many topics are there. Like for example, I would say that objective of any population policy is what? To achieve, I'll show you. Like for example, you see social well-being and quality of life. Can I say it is objective of any population policy? Yes or no? Can we say that? To make higher the social well-being and quality of life of the people? Yes, obviously yes. Then there is one topic, population as social capital. Again, this is what? Can I say this can be an instrument to achieve the objectives of population policy? Yes or no? Can we say that this can be the instrument to achieve the objectives of population policy? Yes, it should be an instrument to achieve the objectives of population policy. Okay. So broadly speaking, I can say that there are 4 parts here which we have to study, and today we are starting with the topic of population theories and concepts, because this is base of all that. So let us start without wasting much of time now. And the first topic I have taken up is the concepts of over, under and optimum population. And here question number 1. One minute. Okay, so here the question number 1 is concepts of over, under and optimum population are relative rather than absolute. So comment. Then there is second part also. How does emergencies like COVID-19 affect the relationship between population and resources? Affect the relationship between population and resources. So in 500 plus, many students ask me why you are not giving the material first. There are 2 reasons, because here what we want, one thing is 500 plus sessions are also like test. Only thing is here we are not writing test. Here each of the question what I'll give you 2 minutes to frame your answer. And once you have framed your answer, I will discuss what should have been the answer, the model answer. And ideally what should happen, you should check your performance. You should evaluate your performance. So this will be doing for most of the questions. Okay. So if I give all the questions first, then what will happen, that surprise element would be gone. And that is what I don't want. I want you to become more independent rather than dependent upon me. It is beneficial for both of us. It is beneficial for you also, it is beneficial for me also. मेरे लिए इसलिए beneficial है कि if you become independent, it will be very good for me. I will have less burden. ठीक है? So I am giving you 2 minutes. Think what should be written in this answer. First I am giving 2 minutes for the first part. You just think on what you will be writing for the first part. Concept of over, under and optimum population are relative rather than absolute. Again, I am again repeating, this activity should be done in your copies. It is not here to be shown to anyone. It is for yourself, self-evaluation. So टाइप करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, अपनी कॉपी में करो. आई विल डिस्कस सेल्फ इवैल्यूएट. Okay. So first part I am discussing now. In this question, one thing very clearly I should be knowing that it was a 20 marker. This question was a 20 marker. In 20 marker, I will essentially be getting 4 pages. So I will be getting 4 pages. And if I am getting 4 pages, tell me, can I say that there are 2 parts? First part is comment and second part is how. Tell me, which of these is more difficult to write? Comment or how? Can I say comment is more difficult to write? How is a more simple? It is category 2 type of keyword. Comment comes under category 3 and 4 type of keyword. It is more difficult to write. Okay. If it is more difficult to write, out of 4 pages, how many pages I should give for part 1 and how many pages I should be writing for part 2? Tell me, can I say that almost 2.5 pages minimum should be devoted to first part? Ideally, it should be 3:1 ratio. 3 pages for part 1 and 1 page for part 2. ठीक है? This should be the ideal ratio. But इसलिए मैं कह रहा हूँ because there will be some introduction also, some conclusion also. So if I exclude introduction and conclusion, almost 2.5 page for writing the main content of first question. So first thing that you have to learn here is, as soon as you see the question, this planning should be done. Now you don't have in the examination rough space to write. So either you just do this planning in the question paper itself or in your mind. Best is in your mind. So first thing I'll see and I'll say that I'll plan that 3 pages for paper for first and 1 page for the second part. ये पहले से decide होना चाहिए. If you haven't decided this, then you can understand problem आएगी. ठीक है? So that is first thing that I should know. Now I hope you know, all of you are aware what is overpopulation, underpopulation and optimum population. Yes or no? Are all of you aware what these terms are? Okay, most of you say yes. So I am giving you 2 situations, A and B. So A, in case of A, there is 1,000 people. 1,000 people are living here. In case of, if you talk about B, there is 1 lakh people. 1 lakh people are living here. Now tell me which of these is the case of overpopulation, A or B? Okay, very good. Some of you know what this concept is. Some of you actually don't know. With this information, we cannot say which one is overpopulated. With this information, it is very difficult to tell what is the level of overpopulation, or what is the, whether it is overpopulated, underpopulated, or optimum populated. We require more information. So if I now give you more information, here this is the population. In case of A, there is X resources available. And in case of B, there is 1000X resources available. Now tell me, in which of these is less overpopulated? Tell me. Very clearly, it is B here, we can say, which is compared to A, it is less populated. Here I am comparing. B seem to be less populated. Okay? But tell me, can I say that still it is not very clear? Do I need more technology? But technology, actually I have taken care, because I have given the amount of resource. If I would have given suppose area, अगर मैंने इसमें रिसोर्स के बजाय लिखा होता दिस मच लैंड इज अवेलेबल, ठीक है. सो सपोज इफ आई वुड हैव सेड दैट rather than resources, I would have said that X land is available, and here 1000 X land is available. ठीक है. On surface it would look like B is comparatively, if you talk about, less populated than A. ठीक है. But tell me, if A, in case of A, here they are using green revolution technology, while in this case these people are using shifting cultivation. Now tell me, in which case do you think that population resource ratio is better? ठीक है. So again, technology will another factor which would determine what is the relationship between population and resources. Now I add more factor here. In this case, suppose we are talking about A, but the problem with A is that their per capita consumption levels very high. In this case, the per capita consumption is very low. Can I say that now identifying which is more populated becomes even more difficult? Yes or no? It becomes even more difficult, and this is the crux of this question. ठीक है. If we add some more angles, like for example, can I say that if I take the factor of, so this is spatial factors I am taking here. This is, I am taking the factor of space. But if I add one more dimension, that is time. Time, tell me, can I say that these dimensions can change with time? Technological dimension, consumption dimension, yes or no? So one country which is underpopulated today, can I say there is chance that in future it might become overpopulated? Obviously yes. Okay. So obviously it is yes. So first part, when I am writing my answer, I can begin with an introduction, and in the introduction I can start with something like I can say like something, since Malthus first presented his population theory, the relationship between population and resources has been at the forefront of debate. This relationship is reflected in the concepts of over, under and optimum population. ओवर, अंडर एंड ऑप्टिमम पॉपुलेशन. कैन वी से इससे बड़ा इंट्रोडक्शन नहीं लिखना है? एंड दिस इज 20 मार्कर, दैट इज व्हाई आई एम राइटिंग दिस मच बिग इंट्रोडक्शन. योर इंट्रोडक्शन शुड नॉट बी मोर देन दिस. ठीक है. आफ्टर दैट व्हाट यू विल डू, you will straightforward move on to the main body. Main body. And what I have to do in the main body? First I will explain the concepts of over, under and optimum population. So I'll write one small paragraph on what is overpopulation, what is underpopulation and what is optimum population. ठीक है? Tell me. So you know overpopulation क्या होता है? What is overpopulation? Overpopulation is a situation when the population growth is higher than the resource or technological growth. It is higher than the resource or the technological growth. So this is a situation when what happens, ultimately the situation of overpopulation arises. ठीक है. If I want to use some theoretical perspective, I can talk about, I can say that according to Malthus, situation of overpopulation arises when what happens, when population growth is much higher than the resources or the subsistence growth. ठीक है. So this situation is the case of overpopulation. You can write one more sentence and say it is reflected in features like poverty, low per capita income, if you talk about high population density, frequent famines, malnutrition, food insecurity, etc. ठीक है. So that is first I will be explaining what is overpopulation, and I'll say then what is underpopulation. Underpopulation is a situation where what will happen, where even after addition of more population, there is no decline in living standards. So even if you add more people in an area, the standard of living is not declining. That is what we call it as the situation of underpopulation. Essentially, it is a situation where there are not enough people to utilize the available resources to achieve highest possible living standards. To achieve the highest possible living standard. So, एक paragraph, what is underpopulation? You can give examples also. For example, South Asia, much of South Asia is what? It is overpopulated. On the other hand, if I have to give example of underpopulation, tell me which areas we can say underpopulated they are. Can I say much? There are two type of underpopulated areas. One which are found in the developing world, and second which are found in the developed world. Okay, so one is essentially the case of countries like the Latin America is underpopulated, Sub-Saharan Africa is underpopulated. On the other hand, if you talk about much of the desert part of the developed world, whether it is cold desert or hot desert like Australia, these are basically what they are underpopulated. ठीक है. West Europe को मत बोलो. West Europe is more, we will say it is more like optimum populated area, near to optimum population it is. ठीक है. So that is basically what is underpopulation. Then you write one paragraph on optimum population. So what is optimum population? Optimum population is a situation where the population size is such that highest possible living standards are achieved for greatest possible numbers. For the greatest possible numbers. So if I have to talk about examples of this, much of, if you talk about, here is the case of Anglo America, we will say is near that. West Europe, etc. ठीक है. सो फर्स्ट पार्ट में मैं क्या करूंगा, मेन बॉडी में तीनों पे तीन पैराग्राफ, थ्री पैराग्राफ्स वी विल बी राइटिंग. ठीक है. मोर इलाबोरेट explanation of what they are is I have given here in the material. ठीक है. Like for example, you see concept of optimum population. Theoretically, there is an optimum population for every country. This optimum population is reached when labor force is just sufficient to make the best possible use of the available resources, or expressing it in another way, the highest possible living is reached in a given country under the given conditions. So this situation of equilibrium or balance is what we call it as the situation of optimum population. ठीक है. So हम यहाँ पर क्या करेंगे, सबसे पहले we'll just describe, explain what these are. So, इसी तरह से overpopulation may be said to occur wherever and whenever there is excess of population over the available resources. It may happen from variety of causes: an increase in population, the exhaustion of resources, natural calamities, a reduction in demand for labor, or combination of these causes. ठीक है. See, this material is more bookish. When we are writing our answers, we don't have this much of space. ठीक है. So what we did, like for example, when we were describing overpopulation, what we simply said, when population growth is unable to keep or resource growth is unable to keep pace with the population growth, then the situation of overpopulation is said to arise. ठीक है. So same thing, उसी तरह से उसमें नीचे अंडर पॉपुलेशन के बारे में दिया हुआ है. बट दिस पार्ट एंड दिस आई एम सेइंग includes the introduction and this explanation part. It should not be more than 1 page. ठीक है. It should not be greater than 1 page. That means 2 pages I am going to write on the second aspect. And what is that second aspect? I would say that these concepts of over, under and optimum population are not so simple, and variety of views have been expressed about them. I could have used the keyword which is used in the paper, and rather than writing simple, I could have said they are not so absolute, and variety of views have been expressed about them. ठीक है. And then I'll say, because this is we are writing for the optional paper, and in optional I have to be little bit technical, and if I am little technical, then what will happen? I'll get comparatively better marks. ठीक है. So here I would say that Malthus describes, or Malthus explains or expresses them in a more absolute manner. He treats the relationship between population and resources as more direct one. And you talk about how direct one. So what basically Malthus says, so this is resource, here is the growth, here is the factor of time, here is growth. So this is the resources growth, and This is the population growth. So very clearly, according to Malthus, this O is what? It is the point of optimum population, while here is the situation of under population, and from here is the situation of over population. Is the situation of overpopulation. Okay, so what is one idea? Malthusian idea treats these as more absolute, these terms as more absolute. Okay. So normally what should happen? Normally, as population increases, according to Malthus, the capacity of population to grow is much higher than the Earth's capacity to produce resources. So for Malthus, ultimately overpopulation situation is inevitable as humans continue to grow their population. Okay. However, after this, what you will say? You will say that, however, this relationship is not so direct, as it is intervened by other factors. As it is intervened by other factors. यहाँ पर एक डायग्राम बना सकते हैं, and that diagram जो मैंने पीछे ड्रॉ किया था, where you can talk about population, resources, they combine to provide level of development, or I would say standard of living. And I would say here there are intervening variables of technology, or second is the factor of affluence. ठीक है. So दो variables हमने यहाँ पर we have put, and I'll then write that I'll say that technocentric, or they are also referred to as cornucopians, have criticized such conception of over. Always use the keywords which are used in the question. So over, under, and optimum population as incomplete. Malthus did not include the factor of technology with development of technology, resources can be kept on multiplying. So for them, what they are simply trying to say? They are trying to say something like this. So, okay, population might grow like this, but what is very important thing with respect to the resources, if there are these are technological breakthroughs. Technological breakthrough 1, technological breakthrough 2, technological breakthrough 3, and so on. So, according to them, whether there will be situation of, so what they are trying to say is whether there is situation of over, under and optimum population, it is more function of technological development rather than population size. ठीक है, rather than population size. Cornucopian is a viewpoint. जैसे अभी हमने देखा Malthusian viewpoint. So Malthusian viewpoint is ecocentric or ecological viewpoint. ठीक है. So I'll just explain, because देखो, whenever we are talking about population resource, there are three aspects. One is जो हमने PAT की बात की थी, PAT. One is population size, affluence and technology. So three aspects are there. This is the Malthusian or the ecocentric view. This is Marxian view, and this, if you talk about, is what we call it as the technocentric or the cornucopians. Cornucopians. ठीक है. So I hope these terms are clear to you. So that is what we are saying, that cornucopians, what they believe, that this relationship is very much dependent upon technology, technological development. So this relationship is what? These terms are not absolute. An area which can develop technology or import technology can become what? Can become maybe optimum populated. For example, India, if you take into account, before the development of Green Revolution, we were facing problem of food insecurity. We had to import food grains. But can I say that after we developed the Green Revolution, we became more self-sufficient in food grains? Yes or no? So the level of overpopulation which existed before Green Revolution and the level of overpopulation which has been existent after Green Revolution is different. ठीक है. So again I can give example, or you can give other example, like for example you take the case of Japan. It is an island nation, and despite being an island nation and quite good population, or you take the case of Britain. Britain is what? It is an island with good population, very high population density. Despite that, it enjoys very high standards of living, which clearly means it is what? It is optimum populated. It has very limited resources, but it is still what? Optimum populated. And why so? Because the level of technology is quite high. Compare it with some other island like Java. Can I say that because in case of Java, we find the level of technology is lower, and thus what is, we can say it is more overpopulated. So you can give example. and talk about the relativeness which is there, which is very clearly dependent upon the factor of technology. Then you bring in other factor and you say Marxian view also believes that these variables are also dependent upon the factor of affluence or consumption. Also dependent upon the factor of affluence or consumption. So, according to Marxian view, what is happening? There are some cultures which lead to what? Which causes over consumption. Like if we talk about, example is the capitalist cultures. Okay, and in them what is happening? They are based upon consumerism, and ultimately they cause the phenomena of over consumption. Okay, their per capita footprint is very high, and as a result of which what will happen? They are consuming not only their own resources but also the resources of others. And which are these others? Mainly poor. So this can be poor groups, poor countries, and as a result of which what happens? There is the problem of resource scarcity arises. So according to the Marxian viewpoint, the problem is not that of resource availability. The primary issue is of distribution of resources. So primary issue in determining whether it is over, under or optimum population. Over, under or optimum population. What is? It is not the availability of resources, but it is what? It is distribution of the resources. Okay? Distribution of resources. For example, you take the example of Cuba. In case of Cuba, even with less per capita income, can I say it has very high literacy and very good health standards, and here the resources are distributed in a more socialistic manner. So it comes under high HDI, human development index category. It scores high in the human development index. Okay, so it is not just function of technology or population size, it is more. Marxians believe that technology will always take care of the resource. The main problem is what? The main problem is the distribution, and in certain cultures there is exploitation of the poor by the rich. The rich, they are over consuming than their fair share of resources, and that creates the problem of over, under and optimum population. So one paragraph on this, and one more paragraph I'll write and say that since all these three factors, that is the case of population size, technology and affluence, are variable in time. They are variable in time. So what will happen? So is the conceptions of over, under and optimum population. Over, under and optimum population. Okay, you can give example for each of these categories. Like for example, population size का example देना है. Suppose I talk about sub-Saharan Africa. We'll see that sub-Saharan Africa has today highest TFR rate of over 4, total fertility rate of over 4. Today it is underpopulated. Okay? Today it is underpopulated, but it is expected that by the end of the century, its population would become 3 times than what it is today. 3 times. Then what is the today population of sub-Saharan Africa? So can I say very clearly, it would today what is underpopulated, it can become overpopulated in the future? Yes, it can. Technology का green revolution वाला example दिया, that you can use. Affluence, you can use example of affluence. You can talk about that with globalization. Tell me, with globalization, can I say the consumerist cultures have spread throughout the world? Yes or no? And with this, what will happen? Can I say there is greater chances of overpopulation rising? Tell me, can we say that? Yes or no? ठीक है. So this is what I had to write here. ये चारों फैक्टर्स से पॉपुलेशन साइज पहले समझाया, टेक्नोलॉजी, इन्फ्लुएंस एंड देन टाइम. You'll explain how it is relative rather than it is not fixed. Absolute मतलब it is fixed. So it is not absolute, it is relative. It depends upon relatively how these factors combine with each other. ठीक है. And I have given some reading material for this, but देखो, what I am just trying to say is, can you see that this reading material which I have given, it is finishing on 3rd page, page 3. That means this reading material which is given here, it is what? It is quite large. And as a student, when you'll read it, you'll feel कि ये भी important है, ये भी important है, this is also important. So you will have tendency to ultimately read more, and if you are suppose making notes by yourself, you'll feel like कि इसको भी लिख लेते हैं, इसको भी लिख लेते हैं. But honestly tell me, will you be able to write all this thing in the answer? What is written in this printed material? Tell me. Will you be able to include all of it into the answer? Absolutely no. It is not possible. So this is what I am saying. What we will be doing in the class, that would be the core of what is to be written. ठीक है? That is going to be the core of what is to be written. This material which I am giving you, it is just supplementary material for some extra things, some extra clarification of the concepts, like जिसको optimum under population के का material नहीं है जिसके पास suppose. So for you now there is material, you can just read. Even if you didn't read under optimum and overpopulation concepts before, now you have better idea of what they are. Okay? So the purpose of these feed books is just this. If there are gaps left in what we are discussing in the class, you can just glance through these and fill those gaps. Am I clear on this? Tell me. Already जितना मैंने क्लास में बताया, tell me, उसी को अगर if you just use diagrams etc. to explain that, examples with proper examples and diagrams, tell me, really will you be able to write that in 3 pages, or it would become very challenging? It would be quite challenging to actually write that in 3 pages. ठीक है? So that is one thing. Now coming to the second part. How does emergencies like COVID-19 affect relationship between population and resources? So again, I am giving you 2 minutes for this second part. Think how you will be writing. You have got 2 minutes to write, to think what you will be writing in the second part. How does emergencies like COVID-19 affect relationship between the population and resources? Okay. So the question is asking, how does emergencies like COVID-19 affect relationship between population and resources? So COVID-19 is basically what? It is an emergency situation. It is a pandemic which has been caused worldwide. So I can say that I have talked about here how they are relative. Okay. Can I say I should ideally write one statement which should connect part 1 with part 2? लिखना चाहिए. otherwise it would look like a very mechanical type of answer. So can I say कि I can say that the relativity of over, under and optimum population becomes highly manifested in short time during emergencies like COVID-19. Emergencies like COVID-19. So can you see, केवल एक statement, only one statement I have written, but how much my answer would now look more organic, more flowing, rather than two separate parts. ठीक है? So that is one thing. Then I'll start writing and I'll say that emergencies like COVID-19 affect. So what they are affecting? Affecting the variables of mortality, fertility, migration, production and consumption. Thus, they clearly affect over, under and optimum population scenarios. ठीक है? So in this I have talked about how it would be affecting. समझ में आ गई बात? Yes or no? So let us take, for example, if I take the factor of how it can lead to overpopulation. How it can lead to scenarios of overpopulation. So tell me, can I say that जो सबसे most important factor होगा, that factor you write first. So such emergencies, tell me, out of these factors, which is the most pertinent factor which can ultimately lead to the problems which we see in case of overpopulation? जो अभी जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल हमने देखा था. कैन आई से आई कैन गिव एग्जाम्पल्स लाइक इन सच सिनारियोज व्हाट हैपन्स, देयर कैन बी सिनारियोज ऑफ माइग्रेशन. कैन आई टेक द एग्जाम्पल ऑफ द रिवर्स माइग्रेशन which occurred in case of India. And this reverse migration occurred from where? From urban to rural India. Now, does this means that if you talk about rural, there is already there is presence of what we call it as disguised unemployment in agriculture sector. There is already, it is affected by very high poverty. There is already food insecurity in rural India. Can I say with this reverse migration, all these are greatly serbated? Yes or no? So in rural India, can I say such reverse migration is leading to greater overpopulation? Yes or no? Obviously yes. So जो most important example है वो पहले बता दिया हमने, and others like I can take the case of production. Can I say there is production and supply chain is disrupted? Yes, in rural areas we are talking about. So in this first part, migration wale case mein, in rural India we are talking about. So production and supply chain is disrupted. Like for example, during COVID-19, what we saw, there was disruption in supply of important, very important consumption products like vegetables, other horticulture products, food products. So this can lead to directly shortage of supply of essential items, and second, indirectly it can lead to loss of employment opportunities. So can I say again, it is all this is factors are leading to what? Greater poverty and thus greater overpopulation. कंजम्पशन का भी फैक्टर ले सकते हो. Suppose consumption. So can I say in such exigencies, consumption can be diverted to other goods like medical goods, and this can create what? Shortage for others like food, etc. So again, what will happen? This is creating the problems of food insecurity. Okay, so again it is what? It is a kind of creating a situation of greater overpopulation. The population resource ratio is changing here again. So consumption also is affected. So it can affect indirectly whether it is overpopulated, underpopulated or optimum populated. Okay. So like this you can essentially talk about. और mortality का भी factor लेना है तो like suppose you talk about mortality. So if in general what happens? Mortality rises in such emergencies. Now, if mortality increases, can I say fall in fertility would stop? Yes or no? Will there be replacement fertility? This becomes problematic for countries which are lying in the second stage of demographic transition. Okay. So if you are aware about demographic transition, you must be aware that in demographic transition model, the fertility declines only after mortality has declined to a sufficiently low level. Okay? It has declined to a sufficiently low level. Then only the fertility decline begins. Okay? Now, because of such exigencies, can I say they would increase mortality? Like for example, take the case of Africa. And in Africa, there are so many such epidemics, pandemics. Like for example, take the case of epidemic or pandemic AIDS, HIV. It is leading to high level of mortality, and you very well understand that if mortality doesn't falls to sufficiently low level, fertility will remain high. And if fertility remains high, can I say that the country would remain in the second stage of demographic transition for a very long period of time? And this second stage of demographic transition is what? It is the stage of population explosion. पढ़ा होगा इसके बारे में? Yes or no? Tell me fast. It is the stage of population explosion. So, in such scenarios, the country would remain in second stage for longer period of time than expected. As a result, very clearly what will happen? It would lead to overpopulation. In fact, this is what is happening in sub-Saharan Africa. Okay? So, again one example you can give how it is leading to overpopulation. Similarly, tell me how it can lead to, can I write little bit also on how can lead to under or optimum population? How it can lead to under or optimum population. Arvind is saying, please explain again. Arvind simply saying that if you have studied demographic transition, you know, one of the preconditions for fall of fertility is what? It is that the mortality should decline at a sufficiently lower level. It is actually related with the couples. So, couples, what they want like to have security, future security. And if mortality levels are high, that means the chances of their children surviving and becoming adult so that they are able to take care of them in future is less. So they will be going for what? More number of children, so that some of the children survive and become a kind of future insurance for them. That is why once the mortality has declined to very low level, then only the fertility transition starts, fertility decline starts. Okay? Now, if mortality is not declining, that means the fertility, it will affect the behavior of individuals, the couples. Okay? And this means ultimately what will happen? They will not let the fertility to decline. They will continue to produce more number of children. And thus, this will over a period of time, it will not happen immediately, but over a period of time, it would essentially, it can cause overpopulation. ठीक है? Same thing we can talk about under or optimum population को एक में club कर सकते हो. So, for example, here you give the case of reverse migration scenario. Example though, which occurred in the COVID. Can I say it has definitely relieved the population pressure in many of the cities? Yes or no? Because there was very large, in case of, for example, India, there was very large, millions of people reverse migrated to the villages. So comparatively, the cities were what? They were relieved. So the level of overpopulation which was before the pandemic and after pandemic, it was different. Okay, it is other thing that people will again return as situation normalizes, because in the village areas there are hardly employment opportunities. Okay, so again this means that there can be lesser population pressure in such scenarios. Okay, other things can also be there, like for example, you take the case of mortality. Some pandemics, can I say, can have very high mortality rates. You can give examples of the past pandemics, like plague pandemic in Europe. In Europe. So it is said that almost 1/3 of European population did not survive the pandemic. So can I say it would have definitely reduced the population pressure? ठीक है, it would have definitely reduced the population pressure in Europe. So इस तरह से करके you just have to think about the variable. देखो कितना भी tough question हो, if I can break it into parts, no matter whatever be the question, I will be able to write a sufficiently good answer. And always remember, our exam is what? Our exam is a kind of combination of three type of questions. One is what I call it as easy questions, second is the tricky questions, and the third is what we call it as the exceptional questions. So easy के बजाय मैं इसमें लिख देता हूँ direct, and this is somewhere between 40 to 50%. This is somewhere between 40 to 50%, and this is somewhere between 0 to 20%. ठीक है? So this part will only be always not more than 40 to 50%. Rest, your selection depends upon this, how you tackle these tricky questions. So there will always be in any paper, whether वो pre का paper है चाहे वो mains का paper है, it will always be very crucially dependent upon these tricky questions, and also upon how much you have mugged up, so that you score maximum marks in the direct ones. So हमारा target क्या होना चाहिए कि we are so much prepared that when it comes to these direct, we score marks 60%, over 60% marks. If we can somehow score between 40 to 60% marks here, if we can achieve these two targets, that will ultimately give us success. इसका कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, they don't determine your result. ठीक है. Okay, so that is question number 1. Question number 2 पर आते हैं. Question number 2, Ackermann's conception of population resource regions. Ackermann's conception of Saurabh is asking, what about word limit? How much for main body will diagrammatic flowchart suffice? What is the okay, so word limit for a 20 marker, the word limit basically is for 20 marks, it is somewhere around 300 words you can write, and I am saying this maximum. इससे ज़्यादा भी लिख सकते हो because it is not mentioned there, but this is the maximum number of words you can basically write. ठीक है. So that means जो first part था उसमें around 200 words and 100 words for the second part. ठीक है, 100 words for the second part. So इस तरह से लिख सकते हो, and many places you could have used diagrams, for example, like for example जब मैं लिख रहा था, suppose definition of over, under and optimum population, can I say कि I could have used a kind of any diagram, simple diagram भी हो सकता है, like what is over population, under population, optimum population. So here very clearly more highlighted I could have written. So it depends upon you how you use the diagrams. हमने कुछ charts बनाए उसमें पीछे, graphs जो बनाए थे, those can be the diagrams. ठीक है. Yes, that is what I said. Production activities also decreased, and that was the reason we were finding that there was so much supply shortage happened. Yes, Ravindra, what you are saying is correct. That is what we were saying when we were talking about overpopulation. उसमें हमने इसको बात तो किया ना. Okay. Do we not required to write conclusion? You can definitely write conclusion here, and you can definitely talk about that. Conclusion is a place where you can go beyond. Okay, where you can go beyond what has been asked. So here I could have gone beyond what has been asked. So I could have said thus to our population policies of achieving optimum population should base upon not only population control but also achieving fair distribution of resources, development and dissemination or diffusion or equitable diffusion of technology and or further one point likhna to you can just also write about, and so that even if such pandemics arise, the population resource ratio is least affected. Okay, so something like that मिला करके एक conclusion बना दिया. This was not asked, but You can definitely write about that. Okay. So question number 2 पर आते हैं फटाफट. Ackerman's conception of population resource regions presents an incomplete understanding of population resource relationship. Comment. So again I am giving you 2 minutes here. Think how you will be writing. Okay, so to write this answer, first of all, you should know the population resource regions which were given by Ackerman. So you can see Edward Ackerman, he tried to solve this question of population resource debate by classifying the world into population resource regions. And for doing so, he used 3 basic criteria for this division, and one was the population factor or the mainly population size. Second was resource factor or resource size, and the technology factor, development of technology or the level of technological level. Okay. So among these 3 schemes, he used these 3 schemes and divided the world into these 5 type of population resource regions. So यहाँ पर दिया हुआ है, you can see resource level is high. US type, first was US type. So here resource is high, population size is optimum, and the level of technology is high. European type, resource levels, because resources have declined in Europe, so it is low. Population size was higher, but technology was very high level. So because of that, what happens, both of these have, here you see he is taking the factor of technology, so it is high. So here it is optimum population. Egyptian type और पहले ये थर्ड वाला है, Brazilian type, here resources, level of resources are high, but the population size is comparatively much lower, and technology is also lower, thus it becomes what? Underpopulation. Egyptian type was the 4th he talked about. So in Egyptian type, resources are low level, population is high, technology is also low, so it is what? It is overpopulation scenario. 5th, Arctic type, here resources are low level, population is also low, technology is also low, here basically it is underpopulated. region. ठीक है. So देखो, सबसे पहले आंसर में क्या करेंगे, we'll just first write what Ackerman is talking about. Okay, first we'll just describe. यहाँ पे introduction भी लिखा हुआ है, you can just use this introduction, and you first explain what was his population resource regions. Now once you have explained this population resource regions, then you come to the analysis of this, and the question is saying it is incomplete. You see, Ackerman conception of population resource region presents an incomplete understanding on population resource relationship. Comment. So tell me, you have to comment. Can I say when I am writing, I am directly talking the second part? I hope first part में किसी को कोई problem नहीं होना चाहिए. Tell me fast. Okay. So when I am doing the analysis of this, once I have written it with the map, जो map दिया हुआ है वो map बनाना है. Can I say first my analysis should be two parts. One, I will praise Ackerman. And second part, I will highlight the shortcomings. Yes or no? And when I am praising Ackerman, tell me, can I say, I will say that Ackerman has done what? He presents a more technocentric view. His view is guided by more technocentrism, technology oriented viewpoint. And very clearly he sees that technology as an intervening factor. Factor in the relationship. Factor in the relationship. And you give example for this. You take the example of European type. European type. Yes, you have to draw the map which is given in the material. So in case of European type, tell me, can we say that here, despite the factor of high population, high population size, what we get? There is presence of optimum population is found. Why? As technology or technological advancement allows fast resource growth, and thus we know that Europe is characterized by what? High standards of living. It is characterized by higher standards of living. So can we say that Ackerman improves upon the narrow view of Malthus? Yes or no? Tell me. Does he not improves upon the constrictive, the narrow view of population resource presented by Malthusian? Okay. So we can definitely say thus he improves upon. Presented by Malthus. ठीक है. सो ये फर्स्ट पार्ट हो गया. सेकेंड पार्ट में यू विल टॉक अबाउट criticism of Ackerman. So tell me, he includes population size and technology, but what he excludes? Can we say that he excludes the factor of affluence or consumption? ठीक है, affluence or consumption. And here you will do what? जैसे हमने पीछे एक्सप्लेन किया था, you explain here the role of consumption in determining the relationship between population and resources. Population and resources. ठीक है, हमने अभी लास्ट क्वेश्चन में किया था. इट वॉज जस्ट यूजिंग द theoretical understanding which you achieved there, just applying it here. It was nothing. इसमें कुछ भी नहीं था. ठीक है. So this is how we can say that it is essentially incomplete. And conclusion में you can talk about that with globalization and spread of westernization, what has happened? There are new relations emerging between population and resources. Population and resources. For example, tell me, can I say in China, taking into account all the three factors, they have done led to population control, plus they have led to technological development, plus they have also, using their communist system, they have also taken care of distribution of resources. Can I say they have been able to better the relationship between population and resources, which is reflected in the rising standards of living. Rising standards of living. ठीक है, समझ में आ गया कैसे लिखना था? टेल मी फास्ट. एक क्वेश्चन नंबर 3 करते हैं. आई नो हमारा 2.5 hours खत्म हो गया है क्लास का टाइम, बट 15-20 मिनट्स वी कैन एक्सटेंड, नो प्रॉब्लम. आई थिंक आज वैसे भी भाषण ज़्यादा दिया था मैंने. ओके, प्लीज एक्सप्लेन द चाइना पार्ट. यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड कि चाइना का जो मॉडल है इट इज़ क्वाइट डिफरेंट. एंड चाइना, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, टेक द केस ऑफ, येस नाउ कैपिटलिज्म हैज़ एंटर्ड इन चाइना, but China prepared a base for that entry of capitalism. China ultimately did what? It used its communist system. Like, for example, you take the case of agriculture. What they did? First, they did their agricultural reforms. And if you are aware, in China, Chinese agriculture is essentially based upon cooperative systems. So there is cooperative system, what they call them as communes. ठीक है. And as a result of which, what has happened? Because of this factor, because of use of cooperative system rather than like what we are trying to do, contract farming, etc., where it is no doubt that only few individuals will get more profit. There, the fruit of labor was more equitably distributed among the people. Okay? And this is the reason, you see, when we got independent, ultimately, both in case of India and China, the poverty levels were same. Now the poverty level, and I am talking about with respect to the global poverty levels. Now, if you take into account, today the global poverty levels in China are said to be somewhere between 2 to 5%. And you know India का केस, उसको पता नहीं कितनी तरह की गणित लगा करके we just use so much statistics and mathematics and we somehow bring it to 27% and 30% levels. ठीक है, so that is basically the difference. They have been better able to ultimately aspect of the distribution. They have been better in this aspect of distribution. They've been better able to take care of the distribution. Yes, Sweden is also an example. Scandinavian countries are very good example of more equitable distribution of the resources. ठीक है, ओके, क्वेश्चन नंबर 3 पर आते हैं. Examine the pattern of relationship between growth of population and food resources of the world. Growth of population and the food resources of the world. I'll give you 2 minutes. Think what you'll be writing. Okay. Raja is asking here on YouTube, what if country don't have any natural resources? There is no place in this world where there is no natural resource. When we'll talk about resource in economic geography, I'll explain you that resources are mind dependent. They are technology dependent. So if you can develop technology, anything can become resource. You can produce your resources. Resources are not, the contemporary definition of resources tells us that resources are not given, they are produced by human beings. Okay. So coming to this question, examine the pattern of relationship between growth of population and food resources of the world. ठीक है, food resources of the world. Now, clearly, can you see here one keyword is pattern? And always remember, in geography, when we are talking about pattern, we always talk pattern in two sense. One is temporal and the other is spatial. temporal and spatial pattern. So here the question is asking, I think it is 15 marks, उसमें लिखा होगा 20 marks it is. You see, examine the pattern of relationship between, so it is 20 mark. That means you'll get in total 4 pages to write. ठीक है. So Shrutika is asking also, demographic transition theory can be used to show a cyclical form from under to optimum to overpopulation. Don't use demographic transition theory, because demographic transition theory talks about other things, more other things you can say. And in a way, demographic transition theory mein, once you reach optimum population level, you remain in the optimum population level. So again, it is a quite different thing. Its perspective is different. Here with the 3 viewpoints that we use, they are mainly to explain the over, under and optimum population. Okay, coming back. So pattern of relationship examine करना है, explain करना है, or what are the critical factors etc. that you have to explain them. And as I said, temporal and spatial. ठीक है. So tell me, temporal, I'll start with my answer. So answer 3 in the introduction. Can I start with Malthus? Malthusian view. Yes or no? Like इसमें देखो यहाँ पर लिखा भी हुआ है, the relationship between population and its food supply is matter of prime importance. If unchecked, wrote Malthus, a population could grow geometrically, but given a limited area of cropland and its food supply, could grow only arithmetically at its best. These arguments raise the specter of gigantic inevitable famine, which by raising the death rate would be ultimate factor in restoring a rough balance between the population size and its food supply. ठीक है. So concern that population growth might outstrip the capacity to raise the food production has been expressed many times since Malthus. So you see, so you start with the Malthusian view. You simply say, according to Malthus, the capacity of population to grow is far higher than the capacity of earth to produce food resources. Thus, with high population growth, situation of food scarcity arises. Situation of food scarcity arises. ठीक है. So this would be our introduction. और इसी को continue करते हुए we can just go on the main body, and can we say that however the actual relation between global population growth and global food supply has been different. ठीक है, has been different. It has been more guided by the technocentric principles rather than the Malthusian principles. Thus, overall, with technological advancements, the world broadly has not experienced the Malthusian positive checks and the food supply has continued to grow. Food supply and per capita, you write per capita food availability has continued to grow. So here we can show, rather than the Malthusian case, what actually has happened with the world. If I have information, like for example मेरे पास अगर ये information है, तो can I use this information of population growth? Yes or no? Tell me. And can I say इसी में मैं कुछ changes कर सकता हूँ, like wait, मैं इसको अपने आप से बनाता हूँ. So in this what we are saying is, one is this population growth of the world. However, when it comes to the food growth, what we find, here you can say at this point there was what? There was agricultural revolution. Then somewhere इस वाले point में यहाँ पर in this in between what happened? You'll make a curve like this where production jumped. And what was this case? So this jump in production was achieved as a result of what? As a result of industrial revolution. ठीक है. Then it continued to grow as it grew in new areas, but there was another revolution which came, and you know very well ये revolution कब आया? This revolution came here. So what is the name of this revolution? This is what we call it as the Green Revolution. And very clearly, since it has continued to grow, and today we are on the verge of another revolution, and it is already taking place, and what we are calling it as, we are calling it as second green revolution, or what is it is biotechnology revolution. So can I explain this, that from time to time what has the world has seen technological revolutions, and as a result of these technological revolution, the relationship between food and resources and population has not followed the Malthusian pattern. It has more followed what? The technocentric pattern. ठीक है. Now tell me, अगर मेरे पास कंटेंट नहीं भी होता, सपोज इफ आई डिडंट हैड द कंटेंट, लाइक इफ आई डिडंट हैड द फिगर्स, सपोज मुझे ये याद नहीं है, आई डिडंट हियर यूज हाउ मच पर कैपिटा इनकम इंक्रीज, बिकॉज आई विल बी यूजिंग दैट जब हम फेमाइन पढ़ेंगे, तो देयर आई विल गिव यू डाटा रिलेटेड विथ हाउ what has been the case of food security, because food security and famine is one of the topics in economic geography. So there I'll give you some data related with this also. But even if I don't have data, don't you think that what here we are writing, it is very conceptually very good written, and even if I don't put data, then also the examiner will be impressed. Yes or no? Tell me. If you can remember the information, it is very good. Even if you cannot remember, no problem, don't take the burden. You just fill the gap, your shortcomings with your strengths, and the strength many times can be these concepts. So can I say I have given this temporal sense what has been the level of the relationship between population growth and food resources? Once I have written this, I'll say that, however, spatially the relationship has varied. Spatially the relationship has varied. And then you will start talking about the relationship, how it has been variable. And for this I have given you can take regional frameworks, like for example in case of East Asia, what has been the developments? Southeast Asia, what has been the developments? South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, and the developed world. So we can divide it into these categories, and for each of these you can write one paragraph. Let me give you an example. Like for example, I am talking about East Asia. So what has happened? East Asia, there is positive developments. Why? Because food security has increased, and if I look into the factors which have led to this better position of East Asia, tell me, can I say, in explaining this situation, should I use PAT? Why positive development? अभी मैंने चाइना का एक्सप्लेन किया था. They worked on all the three fronts. There has been improvement with respect to all the three fronts. So in case of China, population, what they did? One child policy Come on, yaar. What he is asking someone here is Nawaz. This is asking what comes under temporal aspect. Temporal का मतलब क्या होता है? Time oriented. So here we are talking about time. How this relationship has changed with time. So here first we were talking about temporal only. Okay. So one child policy is one very important factor which has led to this better relationship. They were able to control their population growth because of that. So population explosion, it didn't happen as was predicted earlier. Simultaneously, tell me, China, if when it comes to adoption of green revolution technology, was China able to adopt the green revolution technology? Yes, it was able to adopt the green revolution technology. In fact, China used the system of cooperatives. And with the use of the system of cooperatives, what happened? They were better able to diffuse the technology. So because of that, technological diffusion was faster and more, or you always write comparatively more even. It can never be even, but comparatively more even. Third is the factor of distribution as well. So distribution in system of cooperatives is what? It is much fair distribution is taking place. So because of that, they were able to better this situation. Okay. Similarly, tell me, Southeast Asia, Middle East and Latin America, there are mixed results. So why mixed results? In case of Southeast Asia and Latin America, if I first talk about Southeast Asia. So Southeast Asia, why mixed results? Here also they were able to comparatively control. There was slowdown in population growth, and they also adopted the green revolution technology. However, if you talk about with respect to the distribution, has remained highly unequal. ठीक है. Also, with respect to technology, their economy has progressed in some of the countries like Singapore, Indonesia. So overall, there is mixed results. When it comes to Middle East, tell me, what has been the main factor due to which we are saying mixed results in Middle East? The main factor has been that of resource development. So petroleum and natural gas has allowed import of food resources. So through the import of food resources, what has happened? They have been able to maintain this relationship to a fair level. But when it comes to population growth, we will see that population growth here is very high. In these countries also, the TFR is quite high levels, and distribution is also very uneven. That is why we are saying it is mixed results. Okay? Same is the case of Latin America. Latin America or Southeast Asia is very similar. Asia. Okay? Similarly, if you talk about South Asia, problems are there. Why? One, population growth has been still higher population growth is there in case of South Asia. What is technology? Technological diffusion has been very uneven. Can I make a map here of India? So suppose मुझे इंडिया का मैप बनाना है, so I'll just make a small fast map of India. Okay, so what we can do? Can we show which are the areas where green revolution has progressed? So if we leave certain areas, rest of India is what? The progress of green revolution has been very slow. So एक diagram बना दिया and you show that how it is very uneven. ठीक है? So South Asia I can explain why it has happened, and again South Asia, political instability has been there in case of South Asia, and that is one of the reasons the distribution aspect also has suffered. ठीक है? So South Asia लिख सकते हो. Sub-Saharan Africa suppose I am talking about. Tell me, can I say Sub-Saharan Africa? Africa. Main problem is what? Can I say main problem is technological development? Can I say that the crops of Africa, main crops or staple crops of Africa कौन से हैं? Tell me. Crops like tapioca, etc. Rice is not a staple crop of Africa. Maize is not a staple crop of Africa. Wheat is not a staple crop of Africa. So can I say in the staple crop of Africa, there has been no HYV seeds have been developed? Yes or no? Tell me. No HYV seeds have been developed. That means it hasn't been affected by that technological revolution. And this is the primary factor which has led to so many food insecurity in case of Africa. Yes, cocoa, tapioca, all those are main crops. So that is one main factor. Technological development has not been able to keep pace. Another very important factor is what? Authoritative and corrupt regimes. So that has been another factor due to which distribution has suffered. And in recent times, Africa's population is also growing very fast. We'll see that the TFR is over 4. It is the only continent where the total fertility rate remains still over 4. ठीक है? So can you understand कि लिखना कैसे है? And when you are writing like this, you will just need few facts and figures here and there, and as we progress वो facts and figures भी तुम्हें मिलेंगे. You will get those facts and figures also as we progress. Like food security का, we'll talk about the food security separately. So what is the level of consumption of food, etc., etc., all those things would come. ठीक है? So this is basically how we will be doing these questions. So I hope I have given you a fair idea of how the 500 plus would be progressing. Yes or no? टेल मी। One minute. ठीक है, एज आई टोल्ड यू बेसिकली आई हैव गिवन यू दिस डेमोग्राफिक प्रोफाइल्स। सो उस डेमोग्राफिक प्रोफाइल्स में से हम क्या कर सकते हैं, कैन वी से इस तरह के ग्राफ्स बना सकते हैं। लाइक फॉर एग्जाम्पल सपोज आई हैव टेकन द केस ऑफ वर्ल्ड, यहाँ पे मैंने तुम्हें एक वर्ल्ड का एक एग्जाम्पल दिखा रहा हूँ। सो वर्ल्ड डेमोग्राफी इन नंबर्स। सो व्हाट आर द थिंग्स विच आई विल फोकस अपॉन इन दीज चार्ट्स, बिकॉज इसमें बहुत सारा इंफॉर्मेशन है। So what are the key things which I will focus upon? Like for example, take the case of world. So I'll just focus upon how much, like for example, total population, how it has grown. इसमें thousands में दिया हुआ है, you just remember in billions. Population density, age, ठीक है, एंड रिमेंबर फ्यू ईयर्स। अब इसमें बहुत सारा दिया हुआ है, सो 1950 का याद रख सकते हो, देन यू कैन डायरेक्टली मूव ऑन टू 1990 और 2000 डायरेक्टली मूव ऑन कर सकते हो, देन यू कैन डायरेक्टली मूव ऑन टू 2015। ठीक है, सिमिलरली मोर्टालिटी में कुछ चीज़ें याद कर सकते हो, लाइक क्रूड डेथ रेट, इन्फेंट मोर्टालिटी रेट, फर्टिलिटी में क्रूड बर्थ रेट एंड द टोटल फर्टिलिटी, that is TFR. Other things like sex ratio you can remember. ठीक है, so few things you can remember. And देखो remember कैसे किया जाता है, how we tend to remember. For example, see, suppose I am trying to remember the median age of the population, suppose. So can you see that the median age of the population, it has not much changed by 2015, but by 2000 by the end of this century what will happen, it will ultimately be almost becoming near double, it would become. ठीक है, so the thing is you won't be able to remember these numbers. हम नंबर्स को कैसे याद रखते हैं, वी यूज टू, हमें एक नंबर याद हो गया, सपोज हमने याद कर लिया 23.5, देन आई कैन रिमेंबर दैट बाय दिस टाइम हाउ मच ग्रोथ हैज टेकन प्लेस, ओनली बाय 5 परसेंटेज पॉइंट, ऑलमोस्ट नियर 5 परसेंटेज पॉइंट ग्रोथ हैज अकर्ड। ठीक है, और 6 परसेंटेज पॉइंट ग्रोथ हैज अकर्ड इन दिस केस बाय 2015। ठीक है, और 6 years growth has occurred. Or you take other cases like old age dependency ratio. So old age dependency was what? It was 8.4%. But what has happened? 2015 तक ये almost कितना बढ़ गया है? It has increased by almost 1/3 increase हुआ इसमें. Can you see? So if I try to remember these numbers मुश्किल होगा, but can I say that since 1950 there has been almost 1/3 rise in the old age dependency in the world. Can I say this will be more easy for me to remember? Yes or no? बताओ मुझे. This will be very clearly more easy for me to remember. So ये जो मैंने फिगर्स दिए हैं उसमें तुम्हें क्या क्या याद रखना है? You have to remember the dependency ratios देख लो, mortality का सिनेरियोज देख लो, fertility का सिनेरियोज देख लो, and just एक बेस पॉइंट लो. Like for example, if I have to remember, first I will remember what is the world level. ठीक है, सो एक मैंने याद कर लिया. Now tell me, I can say that it is either higher than world level or it would be lower than world level. So if I try to remember it more comparatively, then what will happen? It will be more easier for me to remember. Then there is a possibility that I will be able to remember. Can you understand what I am saying? Absolute form में numbers, it is very difficult. And don't take this burden, I would say. So that is what I am saying. World का सबसे पहले एक बार you just remember world, and then what you do, you just compare. Developed world का comparison में, global comparison में, what is the situation of developed world, what is developing, what is least developed, region wise you can just go through. ठीक है? Tell me. Suppose मुझे एक और मैं एग्जाम्पल देता हूँ. Suppose if I have to remember with respect to developed countries. So can I say एक base बना लिया, what is the case of more developed regions? Yes, curves and graphs you can draw. What is the base पहले मैंने बना लिया, what is the case of more developed regions? What is the case of less developed regions? What is the case of least developed regions or countries? ये तीन मैंने बेस बना लिए. अब I can just compare. If suppose I am making a case study of any country, I can compare with, if it is a least developed, if suppose I am talking about a country like Somalia. So Somalia के figures with whom I will compare and remember? I'll compare it with the least developed country. So ये तीन देखो, कहीं पर we have to make some base and somewhere we have to mug up. Few things तो mug up करना ही पड़ेगा. So best ये चार क्राइटेरिया जो फर्स्ट 4 पेजेस में दिए हुए हैं, सम लेवल तक उसे याद करने की कोशिश करो. ठीक है? लाइक वर्ल्ड का मोर डेवलप्ड रीजन्स, लेस डेवलप्ड रीजन्स एंड लीस्ट डेवलप्ड रीजन्स. एंड देन व्हाट यू डू, बाकी जितना भी होगा यू जस्ट कंपैरिजन करके यू जस्ट ट्राई टू रिमेंबर. एंड नंबर्स नहीं याद होंगे, यू विल ओनली बी एबल टू रिमेंबर हायर दैन, नियर टू इट और लोअर दैन. कैन यू गेट व्हाट आई एम सेइंग? So this is the activity which I have given you. Don't do this activity in one day. Take time. You can take 3-4 days. But this is important. This is what is missing in our answers many times. If we can just do this, we will have ample amount of examples to cite in population geography, also elsewhere where there is a relationship of population geography with other topics. ठीक है? So I am going to stop for now. We'll continue this on our next class, which is I think Friday. And Friday is a little bit longer class. So on Friday we have class at 2 p.m. Okay, we'll continue this on Friday. Already we have taken more time, 45 minutes than usual time. Mainly because it was the first lecture. Otherwise, we would have completed the other questions as well. ठीक है? So I am stopping for today. We'll meet on Friday, and by that time, now you know basically what has to be done. I hope you will come prepared. At least you would have read what is Malthusian theory, Marxian theory, and demographic transition theory. ठीक है? Okay, so I'll stop for today. Good day to all of you. Again, I'm reminding all those things which I reminded earlier. उसको मैं एक बार याद दिला देता हूँ. क्या क्या हमने बात किया था? हाँ, 21st January विल बी हैविंग आवर ओरिएंटेशन क्लास फॉर जियोनॉमिक्स फॉर प्रीलिम्स. ठीक है, दैट इज़ वन थिंग दैट यू नीड टू रिमेंबर. एंड द अदर थिंग दैट इफ़ यू आर टेकिंग एडमिशन इन द फुल कोर्स इट विल बी मच मोर बेनिफिशियल दैन टेकिंग इन पार्ट्स. सो दोनों चीज़ें याद रखना है. ओके, so I'll stop for today. We'll continue this tomorrow, day after tomorrow, sorry. Okay.